Teas. It's the People's Podcast with your girl Toya, and this episode is called I Don't Fail. Okay, so I cannot start this episode. So for my people who subscribe to Universal Teas, you all know that I have still been uploading episodes on all the streaming platforms. I just haven't been doing this like live type of vibe because one, it gets a little bit demanding. So let me tell y'all about my new ideas. Instead of doing live on Facebook every week, because my life is a little bit more demanding now, I'm going to do it once a month. But I still want you to subscribe on all the streaming platforms because I will be uploading episodes on those every week. So if you are OG and you have been subscribed to those streaming platforms, you have heard a bunch of episodes. And you all know that my focus word for the year 2024 is self-awareness. Last year, it was focus, my 4 quarters of focus. And this year, I am really adamant about self-awareness because we tend to, or last year, I spoke a lot to growth. Doing the things, having the courage to step into doing the things that you want to do and figuring out a plan so that you can execute becoming the person you want to be. But this year, I realized in my own personal journey that even though I'm growing and showing courage and doing the things, if I don't know myself, there's no way that I can really fully live in my progress. So my focus word for the year 2024 is self-awareness because I want to know myself. I want to love myself. I want to believe in myself. I want to be able to encourage myself. I want to give myself the ability and the permission to feel every feeling, good, bad, or otherwise, but trust myself enough to know that I can come back from those. So I want to know me. I want to know how and why I messed up in certain situations and certain areas of my life. I want to know and understand why I allow other people to do things to me that I probably wouldn't allow in this season. I want to know why I made those certain decisions. So if you have been listening, you know that already. If you're here with me and you're usually on Facebook, this is your first time hearing that 2024 is about self-awareness. It's about knowing me. It's about loving me. It's about holding myself accountable. It's about letting myself be in every space, understanding who I am and why I don't rock with certain things and certain people in certain situations and being okay with that. And another part of that, so self-awareness is a big focus for me, but the word love also kept coming up for me. And if you listen to one of my previous episodes from this year, I don't remember the name of it because you should go and listen to all of them, but I kind of talk about how and why love is kind of tied into self-awareness because we have these storybook ideas, or at least I did. I had a very fairy tale Disney princess type of idea for love, and on the journey to self-awareness, self-love is right behind it, and understanding that loving myself is honoring what love really is. So if you want to kind of hear and get into why the whole love piece is tied into self-awareness for me this year, go and listen to that episode. I can't remember the name of it. I'll go back and maybe put it in the comments after I'm done recording today. So if you're watching this back or on YouTube or whatever the case may be, you'll be able to listen to that episode. But I talk about why love is so important for me in this season because I walked around a lot of the latter part of last year, maybe even a year before that, not loving myself, not liking myself, not allowing myself to fully show up in spaces that I was in. I allowed myself to shrink. I allowed myself to feel negative emotions, ideas, and thoughts towards other people. And that's not how you show yourself love. You show yourself love by patting yourself on the back, by picking yourself up, by telling yourself that this situation doesn't feel good, but it's okay. So if you are here, I hope that you join me in this because we at the last, is it 6 months? The last half of 2024. And I hope that all of us take this journey of self-awareness and self-love because once you love yourself, you are unstoppable. And going into the title of this episode, once you really know that, you'll believe that you cannot fail. Okay? Now, another thing, before I get into the meat of this episode, I want to address 2 things in our world are happening right now that have to be named and talked about. And of course, these are my thoughts and my ideas and my opinions. But it's important that we put them at the forefront. First of all, Sonya Massey should be alive. Let's start there. We have to really, especially as Black people, as women of color, as anybody with any type of moral compass, okay, we need to do a little bit. Well, I'm not even going to say we need to do better. Those people, the powers that be, need to do better. These cowards that are wearing badges that are supposed to serve and protect need to do a little better or step down. These people who are afraid of a Black woman for whatever reason, y'all need to step down, because it's ridiculous, right? It's disheartening, right? To see the video of somebody who called you because they're in distress, because they're worried, and they end up losing their lives. That is deplorable, is despicable, is disgusting, and I hope that they put him under the jail, okay? And secondly, y'all need to vote. Y'all need to vote. I have been seeing a lot of discourse about Joe Biden stepping out of the presidential race, and people are saying that they're not going to vote for Kamala Harris. And I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I am telling you that I want us to do a little bit more research, learn a little more, because I honestly can say that I'm in a space where I'm learning and doing more, especially in this political climate. As a Black woman in America who pays taxes, I know that certain things that happen when Donald Trump was in office, I am not in favor of. And we're talking about the effect of generations with this election. I want us to really think about the ramifications of not voting, because I just want y'all to know Trump voters or Trump supporters are going to vote. People who support Trump are going to vote. Now, if you don't necessarily support Trump and you don't support Kamala, I just want you to really think about the fact that if you're not voting for Kamala, you are automatically voting for Trump, because those people are going to show up. I need us to do the same. That's how I'm going to leave it, because I haven't done a whole lot of research. I'm no political analyst. I'm not trying to influence anybody, but I just want y'all to know that, one, as a person of color, as a Black person, and as a woman, there are a lot of people who fought and literally laid their lives on the line for us to have the option to vote, for us to be able to stand in the line and cast the vote. So I want you to keep that in mind too. Don't be so selfish in your decisions, but think about the sacrifice that came along with it. Okay, so that is that. We can talk about that a little bit more later at another time, but we could go ahead and get into this episode. So this episode is called I Don't Fail. Now, the way in which I came about this episode is realizing that there are things in our lives that we really want, and we allow ourselves to step away from what we're called to do, step away from the thing that keeps us up at night. We allow ourselves to step away from what we know we want, because we have this idea that we fail, because we didn't get it the first time, because the avenue that we took, the street that we went down to make this happen, we end up feeling like we failed. But I've realized that you don't fail, because truly and simply, I know y'all have heard this before, we don't take L's, we learn lessons, and that couldn't be more true. And so when I think about failing, I personally feel like, and I'm thinking about in life, I'm not being as minuscule as talking about a test or a certification. I mean, like in your life, with the thing that you want to do with yourself, the only way that you truly fail is if you decide that you do. You could have maybe taken the wrong route. You could have tried something a certain way and it didn't work out. But if you know that that thing is for you and it keeps you up at night and it's what you're called to do, it's what you do easily, what you will do without getting paid. If that is your sole purpose, you know that you can never fail unless you decide that you do. Failure is an option. And I know that made me think of, in high school, I was a freshman mentor, and our motto as freshman mentors was, failure is not an option for my freshmen. So you need to have that same motto, and failure is not an option for my goal. Failure is not an option for my success. Failure is not an option for my life. And we have, and I'm going to get into this, we have kind of adopted the ideas of the world telling us we can fail. So somebody telling you no is not you failing. It's telling you that you need to try a different way. You need to take a different path, okay? And so even thinking about failure, y'all know I'm always gonna look up a definition of a word. When I think of failure, it literally is the omission of expected or required action. The omission, so the taking away of an expected or required action. And so when you think about that, we're not even really failing. We just didn't meet the expectation that was we didn't meet the expectation that was set, or the action that was required to get to the goal. So failing doesn't mean that you cannot get there. It just means that the expectation you have for how you get there, you missed the mark. And just because you failed, it doesn't mean that that thing isn't for you. It's the action that is required to get to that you didn't meet. So when I think about that definition of the word fail, it's like failure isn't the cut and dry, the word being there that we have. When I think about failure, I just think like, I didn't meet the expectation. So maybe I need to change my expectation for how I get this thing. It's not that I'm not going to get it. I just need to change the expectation for what it looks like. I just need to change the expectation for the people that I trust with getting me there. Because sometimes we put our trust in a certain person, a certain group of people, just because that's your best friend and a person you talk to every day. You expect that to be the person that you get, that gets your foot in the door, when that's where you failed. If you want to say that you failed in who you put your trust in, and not even your trust in as a person, but with your goal. Just because somebody loves you doesn't mean that you can trust them with your passion. You might have to step outside of your circle. Failing literally means you just didn't meet the expectation or the way that you expected to get there. Yes, you want love, but you may not be looking. You may have limited what that looks like for you. You have to broaden your horizons. And so when we talk about failing, it also is the required action, the omission of the required action. Maybe the way that you went about doing it didn't work. So let's think about this. Think about in school when you take a test, right? And you fail the test. Your teacher puts that you failed the test on there. Now, sometimes you can take the test again. And if you just accept the fact that I failed, I'm not going to be good at this isn't for me, then yes, you failed because you've decided and made up that it's over for you. But if you take that test and you look at everything you got wrong, that is literally your blueprint for how you then succeed. You have to change your plan of action. Maybe on this test, I just studied this specific thing. I spent most of my time taking notes on this specific thing. But if you fail or don't get as many correct on this test, now you are looking at the things that you got wrong. So now your plan of action changes. There's no such thing as failure. Failure doesn't exist. There's only redirections and roadmaps, because we talk about too, and I think even about college, right? You fail a class, you fail a test, you get to see what you got wrong. So I could take that test. I could take a failed relationship, a failed business idea, and still have my main goal is to graduate from college. So me failing this one test doesn't mean I failed at college. It just means I need to look at this and understand that now I have a roadmap for where to put my focus to move to the next thing. And I'll be the first to say, about switching up. I literally, y'all, changed my major in undergrad like 3 times. And that is literally why I ended up with my degree being interdisciplinary studies, because I tried different things. My goal going into college was to graduate from college. And so I knew that I was a very multifaceted person. I knew that I had interest in the ability to succeed at several different things. And so I didn't ever think that I wasn't going to finish college. I just had to change the thing that I was focusing on. I went into college, y'all. My first major was biology, and I don't know who the hell. I know good and well I ain't nobody's doctor. I don't like to see blood, any of that. But I had this idea, and that was somebody else's idea that they gave to me. When you go to college, you're not going to make no money unless you're a doctor or a lawyer. And so I was like, well, I'll be a doctor, baby. Took chemistry the second time and was like, listen, the financial aid ain't financial aiding. And so I didn't decide that I wasn't going to do college. I decided I was going to change the actions I was taking to finish, which meant let's change this major, which meant let's change this coursework, which meant let's change the way I'm looking at the way I navigate through this certain situation. So if you're telling yourself that you fail, that means that you probably don't have a big enough picture. If you put your all into this one thing, if you have a career goal, there's never only one way to get there. If you have an idea for a business that you want to start, there's not one way to get there. You're just stuck in one mindset. So understanding that we don't fail, and I haven't looked at my notes once, but understanding that we don't fail is also understanding that you get to gauge what success looks like, because we oftentimes say that the opposite of failure is success. And so I have the definition of success. And there was two of them. So the first definition I have for success is the accomplishment of an aim or a purpose. And the second definition of success is the good or bad outcome of an undertaking. So let's talk about the first definition of success, is the accomplishment of an aim or a purpose. The word that stuck out to me in that definition was an aim. The way that you get to success is understanding what you are aiming for. A lot of us are just out here doing the days. We are literally just out here doing the days as they come to us. You aren't aiming at anything, so you're not going to hit anything. You're saying, I just want to be rich. I just want to be a millionaire. But how? What is it that you are aiming at to get there? I want to be married. How are you going to get there? What is your aim to become a wife, a husband, a spouse? Because some of us have a lot of work to do. I want a healthy marriage. But what are you and your spouse doing? What are you aiming at to get there? Is it more communication? Is it more intimacy? Is it more honesty? So, like I said before, failure is only when you decide to do that. But on the contrary, the opposite of failing is succeeding. And you also have to decide what it is that you're aiming at to measure your success. And here's my teacher brain, right? Like when I'm teaching a lesson to my students, I have to go into that lesson knowing, lesson. I have to go into teaching that lesson knowing what I want my students to be able to do at the end of it. When I step from in front of this classroom, what should my students be able to do independently? When you step out of your own way for whatever it is that you want to accomplish in your life, what are you going to be able to do? What is it going to feel like when you reach success? And understanding that success can move with you. Accomplishment and success are different. So accomplishment is a part of success. We oftentimes feel like, wow, and this just had me think about myself. We sometimes may feel like we're failing because I accomplished all these things and I still feel like I'm failing. And even for myself, it can be like, I went to high school. I went to one of the best high schools in the city of Chicago. I went to college. I got a master's degree. I did this. I did that. I'm in a leadership role and I still am not happy. I'm still not fulfilled. But what the problem probably is that you are just checking off accomplishments. You don't even have a measure. What does success look like to you? We know accomplishments look the same to everybody. I've accomplished a lot. A lot of us have accomplished a lot, but what have you succeeded in? And that's something that only you can decide. So oftentimes we're saying that we failed, but we don't even know what our success measure is. And that is where it's important to, again, in this year of self-awareness that I'm talking about, and feel free to talk to me in the chat, y'all. This is my year of self-awareness, and you have to understand what you're aiming for. Because if you wake up every day and do the day is going to do you every day. But if you wake up every day with an idea of what you need to accomplish by the end of the day, by the time you lay your head on the pillow, That gives you a better measure, and understanding and being aware of the fact that if you miss that mark, it's not that you failed, it's just that you have to redirect yourself. Okay? And another thing about tests, because I mentioned you only fail when you subscribed to someone else's measure of success. And like I mentioned, the whole analogy about taking a test, this is a measure of success that is determined by someone else. Okay? And I'm thinking about physical tests that you take, like certification tests in school. And so when we subscribe to somebody else's determination of success, anytime that they feel like we didn't meet the mark, we failed. And when you're taking an actual test, right, there's always an answer key. And we kind of start to navigate our lives like there's an answer key and there is not. You're not sitting in a classroom taking a test, you're doing life. And you have to decide what success looks like for you, because we have to step out of this mindset. And it could be our society, right? We're a society full of tests and certifications and classifications, and somebody tells you whether you're good enough or you're qualified. And we have to step outside of that and realize, like, this is my measure of success. This is what I am putting in front of me. And we have to have the answer key. We wait for the answers for somebody else when the answer is to do it. The answer is to never give up. The answer is to be disciplined and consistent. The answer is to stay in your lane. The answer is to stop looking at what somebody else is doing, because their measure of success is probably and most likely different than your own. And so what you have to do is, when we are defining what success means for us, we have to be very specific on what our personal goals are, but we have to be open. We have to open our minds to all the possibilities of how to get there. So, yes, you want to be specific about what your goal is. And another thing, this is a side note, when you're determining what your goal is, y'all need to stop consulting other people. Because you don't need anybody's opinion to have a dream. You don't need anybody's opinion to have a vision. You don't need anybody's opinion whether or not you should start something or fulfill a purpose. We need to stop consulting people on what we feel like we want to do with our lives. You can consult people when you start to do the work to get there, but you don't need anybody's approval or opinion for what you've been called to do. And that's where we fall short too, because if somebody else, you go to your idea, you've sat with it, it's sat in your spirit and your soul and your mind, and then you go tell somebody and they say, that sounds a little crazy. Now you feel like you've failed, or that's not a good idea, when in all actuality, it's just yours. Okay, when God gave you purpose, it wasn't a conference call. That was the direct line. So stop consulting people on what it is that you want to do, what it is that you know you're called to do, because sometimes we don't even want to do it. But you know that it's your call to do it. You know that you're good at it. Sometimes y'all haven't been on live in months. And so I understood the assignment of, like, if this is your calling, if this is your purpose, you got to do it with one person on live, with nobody on live. And that was what I realized, is that I needed to focus more on commitment. And so, yes, I've been uploading episodes on all the streaming platforms, but now I'm having to push myself to be back in front of the audience. Even with, I just mentioned at the beginning, I cut my hair. Like, this is my hair. And after I cut my hair, y'all, because it's something, this also, if you're really close to me, you've heard me talk about how much I wanted to cut my hair for so long. I want to get this cut, sending pictures to my friends, like all of this. And I realized that I was doing it because I was wanting them to tell me that it was okay for me to do it. And so I was just in New Orleans this past weekend with my best friends, and God, like, thank God for friendship, because I needed that. Child, now me getting emotional thinking about my friends. But my best friend Jazz is a cosmetologist, and I had been talking to her for so long, like, oh my God, next time we get together, you're gonna cut my hair. We were in Phoenix in March, and I asked her, I was like, you gonna cut my hair? And then I kind of backed out. And it was funny because when we were getting ready for this trip to New Orleans, I text in the group chat, like, Jazz, you gonna cut my hair in this trip? And she was like, girl, I was gonna cut that ponytail off either way it go. I was tired of you talking about it. But when I cut my hair, I had the realization. I was like, wow, I didn't have to ask anybody permission to cut my hair. I didn't have to ask if I didn't have to get approval to cut my hair. I didn't care. I didn't have to consider anybody's opinion about cutting my hair. And this is the first time in my life, and I said this at the very beginning, that I have not been able to make a ponytail. Hair has always been very important to me. And so cutting my hair I felt successful. Because for the first time in a long time, I made a decision that I wanted to make. And I didn't care about anybody else's opinion. And so that's the same thing with your life goals and your life purpose, is that you have to understand if it feels right to you. Going back to my self-awareness focus for this year. If it feels right to you, you don't need permission. And you have to understand that people are going to give you warnings. And yes, you most likely might fuck up along the way. That doesn't mean that it's not for you. It just means that you need to redirect. That means you need to realign with your aim and your purpose and your goal. And don't get discouraged because you feel like you haven't made it, or you're making success and accomplishments synonymous. Just because you've accomplished something does not mean you're successful. Successful is self-fulfilling. It's self-proclaimed, okay? And so when we talk about that, like I said, you have to make it specific, make it personal, but open up your mind for how to get there. Open up your mind for how you're going to start that business. Open up your mind for how you're going to win in this marriage. Open up your mind for how you're going to find love and what relationship is going to look like for you. But be specific about what you want. I want a partner that is loyal and kind and honest. And so you have to understand that you have to open yourself up to what that looks like and how you're going to get there. Okay? And then I also want us to think about this question. Because I talked about redirection. I talked about changing the ways in which we get there. But my question is, if you are not able to achieve success, is that what you're really called to do? So we oftentimes, and I talked about this at the beginning with college, when I was told you're not going to be successful unless you are a lawyer or a doctor. And so if I would have really adopted that mindset, and I went to college my first year as a biology major, and I failed chemistry the 2 times that I did. And I was like, yo, I'm not going to be successful because I'm not going to be a doctor. Versus being like, girl, this ain't for you. Go on and change that major and go on and take you some humanities classes, some psychology classes, and get up out of here. Okay? But we have to understand that success has to be what we're called to do. You have to stop adopting what somebody else has told you success is, what it looks like, what it feels like, and really tap into yourself and your self-awareness. And so, if it fulfills your soul, it's for you. If it's not, that's for somebody else. And then, are you taking the right test? That question came up for me. And when we think about the trajectory of our lives and the goals in which that we have set for ourselves, sometimes you signed yourself up to take the wrong test. A lot of y'all are going to take nursing tests. Oh, Jesus. Not tests. Child. A lot of people are going to take the test to be a nurse when, you know, deep down in your soul, you want to be an artist. Oh my God, I had a conversation that just reminded me of when I was in undergrad. I forget, I'm sure it was like an education class, and I wish I could remember the girl's name. I think it was Keishla, something like that. But we were having a conversation, and she was saying, like, I really want to do art. Like, I don't really like, you know, this, that, and the other. I'm just doing it because I'm here. And, like, she showed me some of her artwork, and I was like, girl, fuck this class. Go and be an artist. And now I kind of see glimpses of her on social media, and she's, like, living in her fullest self, like in her artsy self, and flourishing. And you have to trust that. And we get so caught up in the ways of the world and what the world is doing, and too busy trying to be like everybody shaking their hips on TikTok and making reels. And I'll be the first one to tell you, like, I can't stand social media. And I was going to say I can't stand content, but that's not true. But this whole idea of like making something look good and eye catchy on social media, I hate it. And I tried to do it here and there, but you know, I just thrive off of what's real and what's authentic. Like, I don't care what's cute and got a nice background and got nice transitions in the middle of it. Like, I want y'all to feel me if you feel me and move around if you don't. I don't have time to try to convince somebody to get my message or listen to what I got to say. And so for a long time, I convinced myself that I couldn't do this because I didn't have the equipment. I didn't have a team back here. I don't have a huge monitor, y'all. I'm on my phone. And I convinced myself that this wasn't my calling because I was trying to measure it compared to somebody else. I was trying to do this and go somewhere to make content and do all, like, baby, I'm going to give y'all this word. It's going to be for who it's for. The people that see it. The people that don't want, and just do it because it fulfills me. Sitting here talking and filling people's cups, that fills me up, and I get enough personal accomplishments or personal accolades or people giving me my flowers personally that I don't really care too much about the people I don't know liking, sharing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it fills me up because it's right here. I'm right here. I'm doing it. I'm getting it out. And so that's what I want us to understand. And so I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. This episode is called I Don't Fail. And so what I want you all to take from this episode is understanding that failure is a choice and it's personal just as much as success is. You only fail when you've decided that you won't switch how you approach a situation. You only fail when you've decided that you won't open your mind to possibilities. You've only failed when you've decided that you won't step outside of your comfort zone. Migo, no. My dog trying to get on the bed. Get down. When you won't step outside of your comfort zone, right? And so what I want you to understand is maybe you are taking the wrong test. But you need to really ask yourself if this is what you're called to do, okay? Understanding that failure means the omission of an expected or required action. So maybe it's the actions that you're taking to get to your goal needs to change. Understanding that success is the accomplishment of an aim or a purpose. So you need to be very clear on what you're aiming towards, okay? And with that being said, I want y'all to push yourselves to grow, to do more. Like I said, I won't be on Facebook Live every week. It'll be once a month now. So look out for when the next time you'll see me here. And that's all. I love y'all. Bye.